Welcome to the Better Business Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Zelan. Join me week after week as I interview high-level entrepreneurs on their journey to success, both in business and personal development. Each week presents new stories to learn from and new ideas on how to run a better business. Stay updated with all the guests we'll have by subscribing to this podcast. Welcome to another episode of Better Business with Austin Zelan. I'm super excited to have our special guest, Tyler Stevens, with us here today. He's going to be sharing a little bit about his business and the things that he's encountered in his entrepreneurial journey, which I think are going to be very, very valuable for you guys to learn from. Now, he's had a vast portfolio of experiences, and we'll let him dive a little bit more into that and exactly the things that he's seen and how he's overcome certain things in business. And I think it's going to be valuable for you all to learn from that. So Tyler, thank you so much for being here with me today and for being willing to share from your experiences with our audience on how they can run a better business. So before we get started, if you could just give us an overview of your business, what you do currently, and then maybe like a little bit of background information on how you got to that level in business, because it doesn't happen overnight. There's a journey for everybody, but where did you start? Where are you at now? And how did you get there?
Absolutely. So right now, our current focus is on VizCat Media, which is a performance marketing agency. Basically, we focus on video creatives for e-commerce brands solely. So it's a pretty niche down business. But that allows us to, charge a much higher premium and work with, the top tier 1% of e-commerce brands. So our background, we got started in e-commerce, dropshipping actually, probably back in 2016 was when we got started. And we were doing dropshipping brands. And then we pivoted into the agency back in 2019. So we've been running our current business now for about 4.5 years.
Okay. Cool. Interesting. And so you see a real need in that space, and so how did you decide that that's exactly what you wanted to do? Was it just something that you stumbled upon or an opportunity was presented to you, or how did you get into that specific space?
Yeah. So for me personally, I've always been super passionate. I've always kind of seen myself as a creative person back in the day. So I got my first camera in 2010. I was working on a newspaper, doing print advertising for newspapers and doing some photojournalism work. So for me, I always was passionate about photos and videography and stuff like that and the creative side of things. But for me, I never really saw myself as a creative person. I was just really good at being a perfectionist or systematizing my creativity. Mm-hmm. So once I pivoted into e-commerce, it really it made sense for me. And I think I really found my true passion then because I was really good at systems. And then I was also really good at the creative side. So now the main thing that we focus on with our agency is systematizing the creative process. So what is a repeatable, step-by-step proven process that is guaranteed to yield results every single time? So take the creativity out of creativity, basically is what we're focusing on. And that's what brands specifically in the performance ad space need more than anything. Because, when you're running, millions of dollars of ad spend behind videos, you want it to be totally in your control. You want to control as many variables as possible. So that little sub niche of these very large brands that need specific, these types of performance videos, that's where we really saw the opportunity. And it wasn't we always saw it at the beginning. We started off very broad with our agency. We worked with, info products, service-based businesses and stuff. And then we just narrowed down our niche as we got better and better at it. And that allowed us to charge more, work with these bigger, higher ticket clients, and, just be one of the top 3 agencies in the space, in my opinion.
Yeah. What a story. I mean, I think it's really, really interesting the way you see it in your head. It's we're taking the creativity out of creativity. And I think that even in my personal experience, when I think about content creation, when I think about being creative, it's just this thing that happens. I'm creative sometimes and sometimes I'm not creative. But what if we could put a system behind it that we could systematically be creative, predictably be creative, and more importantly, we can predict the outcomes of our creative product. So we have this video we created. How can we know that it's okay to put $1 million and spend behind it? And it's at scale for these companies. They're putting so much money behind these ads. How do they know they're going to perform? So I think that's really, really cool. And so you've built basically a system for content creation, or is it just a formula for videos or ads, or what exactly is it?
So it's a little bit of everything. So there's three different pieces that we break our creative process down into. The first is ideation. So how you come up with the ideas, how you, you know, like do brainstorming, like competitor research, all that kind of stuff, which is very systematic. It's a repeatable process. So like if you ever have had writer's block or anything like that, this process like really just eliminates that. Like it's very easy. And then it goes into building, which is actually building the creative. So we do in-person production. So a lot of agencies just send their products off to like content creators and stuff like that. But we do in-person productions, which allows us to have a lot more control of those variables because we're the ones shooting everything. So the building in the ad is copywriting, storyboarding, casting actors, and then actually shooting. And then the last part of the process, and then also editing in that process. The last part of the process is iteration, which is probably the coolest part that we do. And that's actually once you have the data, the ads are running, how can you make those ads better now with the data? So how do you make, recreations of those videos or make variations, mash up different segments of the videos to make them perform even better? So we have a system there called the modular scientific method, which takes a lot of principles from the actual scientific method, and we just apply that to specifically video creatives.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Can you tell us more about the scientific method?
Yeah. So like, really it's all about like having, again, control variables, but basically every decision that we make in the creative process, we have a hypothesis behind that idea.
Yeah, and you're trying to prove or disprove the hypothesis.
Exactly. So every idea that we come up with, every test that we do, it has a
Yeah.
hypothesis. So we know that when we go to run that in the ad account,
Yeah.
that we're gathering as much data as possible. Like most people, when they just run an ad, if you don't have a hypothesis, if you don't have this very scientific approach behind your video creatives, you're just pretty much putting ad spend behind it and seeing if it performs or not.
Yeah.
But for us, we have a very strong hypothesis, and we're looking at the hook rate or the percentage of watch times in different segments of the video and comparing that to control tests. And then we're able to gather like so much more data behind this test than just if it performed or not.
Yeah. And do you find that this data allows you to maybe drive more revenue or maybe reduce ad spend to have the same amount of revenue? Have you seen that impact?
Absolutely. So driving more revenue is ultimately like the biggest goal. So with these big brands, like really the biggest thing that I like to judge success by is supporting of spend. So a lot of video ads, like can't really support that much spend. Like we come into a lot of brands and see maybe $10,000 or $50,000 behind a single video, and then the video just dies out. Reason being is it's not really a designed ad. It doesn't have like all the direct response principles inside of it that an ad needs to be able to perform. But like, for example, like our highest spend video supported $4.5 million of ad spend behind just one single video before it started fatiguing. So like when we're able to like really push millions of dollars of spend behind one video without that video dying off, that's how we know we have a winner. So making these iterations on those types of videos and getting another winner behind that one that can support just as much ad spend, then we're able to scale up much quickly horizontally.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you've got quite the formula there. And I like how you are judging these ads based on how long or how much money you could put behind them until they start fatiguing or dying out, because that's important for companies. They need to know. They don't need a flash in the pan. They need something that's sustainable over a longer period of time. So that's cool. So basically, you started this agency and you're building these ads for people and helping them scale their companies. But what is your favorite part of being an entrepreneur?
For me, that's a good question. I mean, really for me, I could say all the basic answers like financial freedom, being able to work on my own time. I think right now for me, probably the biggest thing is being able to like really focus on just the most highest leverage things that I should be focusing on, which is like strategy, speaking on stages. Like we do a lot of engagements, like I just mentioned to you earlier, like we're going to Dubai tomorrow to speak at Affiliate World. Like doing things like that is what I'm truly passionate about and what I enjoy the most. And it's probably the biggest thing that I could do inside of the company that no one else can do, except me and my partner. Things like this. And then also like focusing on like my personal health. I think a lot of people neglect that because of, their current schedule or a job that they have and stuff like that. But for me, like I've been going to the gym every day this year. Like I'm on a very specific diet just to hit a 3-day fast that I only made it 48 hours, but still tried. but
Still thought that counts.
but like a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do those things because they have to work at a specific position. But then
Yeah.
also like there's the other side of it too, which is living up to your fullest potential. Like when I was a
Mhm.
kid, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I always knew I was going to be entrepreneurial. I didn't know how though. I always thought like back then, like, oh, I got to invent something or something like that. But once I discovered the world of ecom, I realized it's much simpler than what a lot of people make it out to be.
Yeah.
And then once I really realized that personal service brands are the easiest thing to start, and that's what we've done right now and scaled it up to, crazy numbers and stuff. And that's all just based off a service that we do.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Like,
Would you say one of the biggest factors of your success in business is the people that you've surrounded yourself with?
absolutely. Like back when we were in drop shipping, every penny that we made back then, like back in 2016, we had stores doing, like I think like I mean like we are doing like between 100 and like $400,000 a month back then, which when we first started, like those are great numbers and stuff, especially drop shipping when we first got into it. Like that was the big breakthrough through us. So like all that profit that we made, we didn't like go out buy Lambos and all this stuff. Like we reinvested it directly like back into going to masterminds. Like I told you earlier about the war room and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We started going to the war room. We joined another mastermind called Cartels. We just went to TNC, a bunch of events, and all that money went back into the business. And I'm grateful that we did that very early on
Yeah.
because that's how we were able to develop our network. So
Mhm.
the people that we met at those events were some of the first clients that we had with our agency, as well as
Mhm.
like two of them actually own equity in our company too. And like we wouldn't have met those people if we didn't, reinvest everything directly into our network.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a very, very smart investment for many people. It's like take any money that you're making now, any profits, whatever, like put it into your own self development, and then also in masterminds and people that can basically you can surround yourself with that are going to create that network. Because I don't think you can get to that next level without the network. You need that network to get to the next level because not because somebody like needs to help you or like you're not looking for handouts or anything, but you need to be surrounded with those people because of mindset, motivation, and all that stuff. And like you said, sometimes even partner with those people. So I'm a huge supporter of stuff like that and self development and building a huge network. So definitely hear you there. Now, as far as like mentors and coaches, are there certain people that you've hired to mentor you down this path of entrepreneurship?
Um, Not so much like directly like mentors where we like paid them and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I mean it does work 100%. I don't disagree there.
Yeah.
For us we more or less like I mean there's people we looked up to sure. But like not directly one to one, but more that in the partnerships that we got. Like I mean like some of the people that have equity in our company right now, they were like probably 5 levels ahead of us when we first met them. Like
Hmm.
they were already doing gigantic numbers, like, multi-million dollar months and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And once we brought them in, that's how we were able to take things to the next level because they already went through a lot of the mistakes and the challenges that we're about to face in our journey and stuff like that. We just kind of like hopped on with them. So I see there's like 3 different types of people that you can like really surround yourself with. There's people like that are 10 times above your level. There's people at your level, which are like your peers. There's people that are, below your level. And those are the people that you're, trying to give the tools to keep on growing and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I think having a happy medium between people that are your peers that you could surround yourself with, that you're growing with, and then also surrounding yourself with people that are much higher level than you. Like, I think just a friendship relationship too works out like that versus
Yeah.
having specific mentors, but either way works.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about network for sure. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about is, in business, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes there's challenges that we might face. So, what are some challenges that you've faced growing your company to where you're at today? And maybe you have some insights on how people can avoid those challenges or maybe just get through them more quickly.
Yeah, man, that's a great question. So I mean, 2.5, I think, years ago, around there, we, I mean, from the beginning, our company, like we wanted to scale up quickly because we felt like we had such a good opportunity with COVID happening and all this stuff. So basically, like we had this gigantic office. It was 30,000 square feet, 30 grand a month, an overhead. And then we had 52 W-2 employees here in Vegas, which I mean, payroll is close to, 300 grand a month. And then on top of that, an office and stuff like that. So basically all the profits were just reinvesting right back in. And we didn't really focus on a couple different things. One, I mean, having too much overhead, and then also gross profit and the things that we're selling. So let's start on the first one first. So like, it was a total disaster having that many people on staff. Systems broke as we were scaling up. There were so many like problems of just having a bunch of people in one building that we never thought we would ever face. So like
what?
we
Can
got
you
to,
give us some examples?
oh man, I mean, there's this group of people. I mean, I might sound bad saying this, but like we just got to get it out there. So there's this group of people like in our team, and I think there's about like maybe 5 or 6 of them. They had a secret Slack channel, and we found out about it, and we saw like they were just messaging each other in this secret Slack channel all day, and it was time theft. They're talking shit about other people, us, everything. So we ended up having to fire 5 people in one day at the office, and figuring out how to like control the rest of the team, control that whole situation, and then tell the team this is what happened. Like it was just unnecessary like drama, and especially like I don't get stressed out very easy, but like it was a stressful situation when you have to go through things like that constantly. And then also like the other side of it is like we weren't, again, tracking profit margins accurately. Financials, we weren't looking at close enough either. And I mean, we were at a point where we thought we were doing good. We were doing good on revenue standpoint, but like we were, at that point, like $500,000 in debt. And finally we made the switch, got rid of the office. We slimmed down our team to just A players. Right now we're around 15 W-2 people in Vegas, and then a lot of contractors, around 40 or 50 contractors, like all over the world and stuff. And now we're doing more in revenue. Our profit margins, our gross profit margins are pushing 75%,
Wow.
which is, the only way that I think a service-based business can work. Our net margins are around like 45 right now. Our goal is to get them up to 50. And everything's great, man. It's all sunshine and rainbows. Like no office, no stress, not dealing with people. And we're just focusing on just the business.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that was one issue that you ran into while scaling. Are there any other like major issues that you faced?
Mainly those two: the people, the overhead, and then the margins. I think is the biggest thing that people need to focus on, especially in a service-based business. But also the systems. I think the systems is another thing that a lot of people think they have a system that's working on a small scale, and that, as you scale up, that system's not going to break. And it's just not going to happen. It's going to break. It's going to break over and over and over again. Like we're still optimizing our systems right now that we've been working on for 4 years, and it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So paying attention to your systems. And then also me and my partner, at first, we didn't do a very good job at splitting our roles. So we operate now on Traction, if you know the entrepreneurial operating system. So it's a visionary integrator model. So I'm the visionary, and my partner, Cody, he is the integrator. So now we have separated roles where, I'm focused on sales, marketing, big relationships, stuff like that. And Cody's focused solely on operations. So, working with the team, making sure those systems, everything's working at, peak efficiency and stuff like that. But at first we didn't have those roles separated. And I think that was the biggest reason that a lot of the mistakes happened early on.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So you started working on these things, then you discovered this system that you wanted to separate your roles, and then you had that conversation with him. Now, how do you think you could have avoided this problem? Maybe like earlier on, you could have just outlined the roles. And I know a lot of people go blindly into partnership and they're not even sure what they're doing and what their partner's doing, or there's like some gray areas. How have you dealt with that since then?
Yeah. So, I mean, early on, like, there's a lot of shoulda, woulda, couldas, but like, everyone's going to make mistakes, especially like for me, like now, like I look back on it and I think it's stupid, but like, I don't regret making those mistakes because, a lot of the lessons that I learned made our business into what it is now, and being like the bulletproof, super profit driven, very lean operating team and stuff like that. And if we didn't experience those things early on,
Mhm.
like, I mean, we probably at some point would make the mistake where we just hired a bunch of people blindly or, went and tried to lease a gigantic 30,000 a month square or $30,000 a month like office space for, just no reason,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. I'm happy we made those mistakes early on. It slowed us down a little bit, but now we know we have the exact blueprint on exactly what to do. But now with the partnership side, so like me and Cody, we've been partners since like day one when we first got into e-commerce and stuff. So
Mm.
we had a lot of issues early on and stuff. So we kind of solved those before we even started this company and stuff. So
Mhm.
I completely agree that a lot of people like move into a lot of partnerships blindly.
Yeah.
Typically those relationships just those businesses die off and stuff. So it's definitely better to partner up with someone that, well, you've known for a long time, and especially trust is the biggest thing I think.
Have you had any issues where you're working with your friend and you mixed friendships and business all in one spot? And have you ever had any issues with that?
So I mean, that's really like, I mean, the heart of our relationship. So me and Cody, partners up until about a year and a half ago, we lived together for like 6 years straight.
Mm.
And then both of our girlfriends have been with us since we first got started in ecom. So now they're super embedded in the business too. Cody's girlfriend is the CFO, and mine is our CCO. She runs our whole creative team. And excuse me. And we all lived together for 6 years, pretty much,
Mm.
like directly in the same house. Dealing with all that. I mean, still to this day, like I don't have any friends outside of like the people in my company. And like Dylan, there's probably like three people I know in Vegas outside of the people that I work with or work with us.
Mhm.
So we are living together every single day and working together. So the business problems, business and personal is the same exact thing.
Yeah.
So once we were able to like separate that honestly made us be able to operate better. Like I
Mhm.
wish we would have like not lived together right away or for so long and just kind of like separated our personal lives a little bit, because now when we go back to the business, everything's dialed in. There's no other thoughts about other conversations that are happening like personally or, someone not cleaning the fucking house or something like that. Like those distractions aren't really a thing anymore when you just separate personal and business. But at the same time, like we're still super close personally. We just don't live with each other.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, a lot of people, they sometimes want to work with their friends, but they don't realize that mixing that can sometimes create some issues, especially if you don't have those conversations up front where you're like, okay, this is work, this is personal. We're not mixing these two.
I think it's important that people I think the biggest thing about working with friends or anybody in general is
Mhm.
being able to like make sure your goals are aligned. Like that's the thing with like everyone that we're partners with and like our company and stuff. Like we're all aligned with what the goal is.
Yeah.
We all want to, grow this company to $200 million valuation and sell it in like 5 years. Like we're all aligned to a T with get there. So
Mhm.
it's basically any conversation in the business. It comes down to, does that get us closer to that goal?
Yeah.
There's no emotion into it. There's no opinion.
Yeah.
It's either fact or it's not.
Yeah.
So any business decision, if you're aligned on those big picture goals, like you really won't fight in the business. Now, personal is the other side of it. So now if you could separate that personal from the business decisions, that's really the only thing that matters.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. And so when you're analyzing your business and you're thinking of ways that you can improve your business, what are the first like steps that you take in that process? Maybe somebody's watching this and they're like, okay, I want to run a better business, but I don't know how. So if you're analyzing your business, if you're going to go today and analyze what to improve, what would you do?
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the profit margins, I would say, is the most important thing. A lot of businesses, before we paid attention to it, we were operating on like 50% gross profit margins, which
Mhm.
until I broke down the numbers and really understood how important it is to the business, like I would say that's the number one thing. Like there's no other way that you're like, if your goal is to just be, a small business, like you don't want to scale up and, maybe sell someday and stuff like that. Like,
Mhm.
sure, maybe 40, 50% gross profit margins are okay. But if you want to create a big business, like if you want to scale up, like there's no other way around you need 70% or higher gross profit margins, unless you're getting funding but if you're just
Yeah.
bootstrapped, like you need high gross profit margins. Reason being is because you need to reinvest that money into acquiring new customers. If you don't have that, 10 to 20% on your gross revenue to
Yep.
put into marketing or referrals or whatever source of acquiring new customers, like that's just coming out of that. So imagine if you're making 50%, you spend, 10 to 20%. Now you're down to 30% gross profit. And then now in your net margin, you got, you got office, whatever, like admin employees, your salaries, all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden now you're down to like 5, 10% net margins. Like there's no profit there.
Yeah.
Like you're probably going to break even or maybe even lose money.
Mm-hmm.
So like what kind of business is that?
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. No, definitely. So do you use social media to promote your business, or is it just like paid ads or organic, or tell me a little bit about that situation?
Yeah. So up until like last week, everything's been word of mouth, referrals, and speaking on stage.
Hmm.
So speaking on
So all
stage
organic
is
traffic.
yeah, speaking on stage. So pretty much all like inbound stuff. So speaking on stage is probably the biggest hack that I think that a lot of people aren't doing. A lot of people are scared of public speaking and they don't understand the power behind it. But
Mm-hmm.
the authority that you gain and the just having that recording to be able to send the people before a sales call and stuff like that, and then also just the front end ROI that you get from it. So like our packages they start around 13 grand a month, and our biggest package right now is 120 grand a month. We have a client that's paying us that. So like for us to ROI on investing and sponsoring events to speak on stages and stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
massive ROI there. Like we've never not ROI'd speaking on a stage.
Mm-hmm.
Plus you get all that back end authority over time, speaking on stage constantly. People see you and they look up to you because you're, on that stage and stuff. So number one hack there, a lot of very easy ways to do it. You either pay to do it or you just ask. Anybody who has an event, like I'm just asking I'm almost doing like an outbound strategy of people that run events just to ask them to be able to speak. And if they're like, oh, you got to pay 5-10 grand. Cool. All right, we'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we buy our way onto the stages to speak to their audience.
Yeah.
But now, a couple weeks ago, actually, we just started running paid ads. So we've only closed one deal from it so far, but we spent like nothing. So like huge ROI there. So paid ads is going to be our sustainable source, but my favorite one is speaking on stage for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Tell me more about that. How many stages a year do you speak on?
We try to do one a month usually.
Is it just you speaking or your partner or anybody else?
It depends on the talk, but most of the talks we try to do dual. So my partner, Cody, he's a super outgoing guy and stuff. So he always starts it off with a lot of energy, goes into the intro. I go into like the body of like the actual like technical stuff. Then he closes it out too. But the one that I'm doing next week in Dubai, that one's going to be a solo one with just me. That event's going to be, it's like a bucket list event. If you've ever heard of Affiliate World, there's like 5,000 people there. So that'll be a pretty big stage there.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Definitely. I've never been, but I've heard of Affiliate World.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, okay. Now, do you guys ever bring in external consultants for your company? And how have they helped you grow?
Yeah, no, we have for sure. Especially so we're kind of pivoting. So our done for you content, model is like what we started with. That's our core offer. But now we have a couple different offers as well. We have an info product, which is a done with you, where we essentially have our operating system where we train teams and help brands build teams out, exactly copy and pasting our systems inside of their business so they can get ads at cost. And we just consult for them and stuff. Then there's also our software, our DIY software, where essentially our whole system is automated inside of software. This is something we've been working on for years, and it's still not done. So we've hired consultants in the software area as well as the info product side because we just don't have experience there. Our experience is in, personal service-based businesses. So, paying someone, 10, 20 grand a month, or not in a month, but in general, in total, and just having them come in, give them all of your mistakes and stuff. It saved us tons of time and tons of money because we didn't do it the wrong way. So on the software side, we've had a couple different ones. On the info one right now, we have Cole Gordon, if you ever heard of him. He runs Closers.io. So He's helping on the paid ad side as well as like the info product. He's not specifically, but his team is. And that's going great. So I would definitely invest in consultants if it's not somewhere where you have expertise. So yeah.
Yeah. And so you kind of just pick and choose consultants for whatever area of business you want to improve at that point.
Yeah, improve
Yeah.
or where we want to, start something new. So like the personal service side, like we never had a consultant there. I think we have it pretty dialed in. We can of course do it better.
Mhm.
But that's the thing. I mean, you can't focus on everything.
Yeah.
Like really like the most important thing to do in business, in my opinion, at least, is like focus on the one thing that's going to generate like the most money as quickly as possible and put your resources onto that. Because, if you try to put out every single fire, like you're just going to end up in a loop. So
Yeah, definitely. No, I hear you on that. And there's so much talk right now in the business world about artificial intelligence and using AI in our companies and all that stuff. So, are you guys using AI in your business?
yeah, so our software is actually called VizCap AI. So
Okay.
it's
Mm.
very light AI right now, but
Yeah.
it's something we've been working on for like 3 years, a very long time. So it's not like the traditional AI where it's like ChatGPT shit. It's more of like when you actually have. So you're storing all your media in our software, all of your videos and stuff like that, all of your storyboards of like how the videos are built out. This clip, this clip, this clip, all of that's stored in our software. And then we're pulling the data from Facebook and these platforms. And now we know, what segments of those videos are lining up. So now the AI that we're building that it's very rudimentary right now, but it's basically taking that decision-making process of what a media buyer would do or a creative strategist of like, oh, we're going to mash up these videos or, this idea or this hypothesis worked really well. So we should do more of these videos. So instead of like doing that process manually, that process is now going to be automated with our AI.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. Have you ever considered potentially using AI in other parts of your business as well?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, we use it like it's very lightly,
So more like a supportive role. You're not really like replacing people with it.
yeah, it's more to like help people work more efficiently. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I use it all the time.
Yeah.
Like I do these ad breakdowns every single week for our community, and basically I have the documentation so perfected because I've done it so many times myself
Mhm.
that I put that documentation into ChatGPT. I got a
Yeah.
bunch of like pages and like a PDF document of all these like examples of it,
Yeah.
and then I have all the principles, and now ChatGPT pretty much writes it out in the word choice that I would use with my breakdown examples, all that kind of stuff for
Mhm.
new videos. So it breaks down the videos for me. So I just get a script spit out. So now I just read that script off versus having to do anything myself.
Yeah. 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 No, that makes sense.
So it saves me like roughly like, just that one example between like 3 to 5 hours a week.
Yeah. No, definitely. Okay, cool. Now, one other thing that I wanted to talk about in kind of this whole space is as you've grown your business and as you've seen different challenges come up, different successes come up, what would you say are like three key things that you would teach to your 20-year-old self? If you could go back to 20 years old, what are three takeaways that you have now that you'd teach yourself?
Start with one. I think it's the discipline, having discipline early on. I'm thankful that we had the discipline early on, but reinvesting the money that you make directly
Mhm.
back into yourself, especially in the early days, is the most important thing. Like a lot of people like go off, spend it or put it in other places. And I'm grateful that we did that early on because I think that's probably the most important reason that we became successful. The
Yeah.
number two, I would say, probably is not doing more than one thing. So a
Mm.
lot of people like talk about side hustles or having like their foot in like a bunch of different places and stuff. Like I guess it could work for sure. It didn't work for me. For me, we just committed fully into this one thing. We set a goal. We're just chipping away at that goal every single day. That
Yeah.
one thing. Like people ask me all the time, like, oh, you want equity in this company versus like getting, our like whatever, 50, 100 grand a month retainer. And I'm like, like we're bootstrapped. Like the money is more important than having equity in some other company because that's going to distract me from what our actual goal is. My
Mhm.
actual goal isn't to own some piece of an e-commerce company. It's to, actually sell our company for the $200 million valuation that we want.
Mhm.
But like, taking these little like, side hustles is like, it's not going to get me closer to that goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Third one, I can't think of one right now off the top of my
Yeah,
tongue.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's, the one that you mentioned about staying focused and not getting distracted is super important because like I would say we live in the time of opportunity. Opportunity is everywhere. Literally, even me, I get pitched so many things every single day. And it's just like you have to stay focused. You have to know what your goal is, like you said, and you work towards that goal. And if something doesn't align towards that goal, then you don't work towards that goal. And, you know, I, even like taking equity in companies, it has to align with the goal that I'm working towards. And I need to know without a shadow of a doubt that I can help that person truly scale their company before
Yeah.
I ever take on that project.
Yeah. And I think like it's bigger, like it's different when you get to a certain level. I think it's definitely much different, like especially probably at your level. Like, I mean, you could take equity in a lot of different companies and like it doesn't really pull your focus away because of like the amount of time you spend. But for someone who's smaller, maybe just getting started, if they are doing something and that thing like goes through a rough point or something,
Hmm.
and maybe they're not making money for a couple months or they're in debt or something. Like a lot of people just give up and go to something different, a completely different area
Yeah.
versus just focusing on that same thing and just getting way better at that one thing
Yeah.
until you get to a point where, that thing is successful. I think that's like the key takeaway.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. And then one kind of fun question. I know you're in the ad space and like creative and videos and all that stuff. So if somebody's watching this and they're like, hey, I really wish I had viral content, what are some tips that you could give them to have more viral content to promote their business?
Yeah, so I would say the first one, specifically inside of, so we focus just on ads. We don't do organic social and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
the organic side, I'm sure there's a wholly different strategy, but that's
Hmm.
not what I'm good at. So with specifically ads for businesses, the most important thing I think is one, using direct response advertising. So direct response is something that's been around since 60s, 70s and stuff. So it's like we've seen in print ads, as seen on TV ads. So you want to use these core psychological desires that trigger a response in people's bodies and minds
Mm.
to buy. So you want to use those inside of your ads. If you're not using direct response, you're just kind of making cool looking videos and stuff. So that's the number one. If you want to check out, there's two books that I recommend directly for direct response advertising, and
Hmm.
it's Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, and then another one's called Cashvertising. Those
Mm.
two books, if you read those, you'll pretty much be, in my opinion, an ad master. Second is trying to put as many variables in your control when you're making content as possible.
Mm.
So a lot of people just, don't know really why they're doing things or why they're shooting it or why they're making this video. So being able to like know that this actor's probably has a high probability of success. This framework has a high probability of success because it's worked before, maybe for a competitor or something like that.
Hmm.
Using just variables that limit your risk is the second thing in performance advertising. And then
Yeah.
the third is probably shooting in person versus like doing like remote shoots and stuff like that. So especially with e-commerce, like, I mean, content creators, TikTokers and stuff, a lot of people just send products off to those people. But the problem is that the creators, like, great, they're cool. They make cool looking content, but they're not marketers. Like, they don't know direct response advertising and stuff. So a lot of the time when you ship off your product to them and they make a video for you, like you lose a lot of control. A lot of those variables are outside of your control now.
Hmm.
So what we do is we shoot in person with actors. It's a little bit more expensive,
Hmm.
but you're able to control the entire process.
Hmm.
So yeah, very easy to make video ads if you just focus on control pretty much.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. And so you basically use this method to control the variables. That way you can isolate and see what's actually working, what's not working. And you're basically like creating this entire process from A to Z, from the actors, from the way they talk, the way they look at the camera, like all that stuff. And so you've kind of perfected and found out which things are working and which things aren't. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
completely. And like I think that's the biggest reason why a lot of brands work with us is because of like the IP, the data, and the systems that we have with
Hmm.
working with all these massive brands and stuff.
Yeah.
So And that's why we launched these different styles of products. Not everyone can pay us, 50 grand a month for us to make ads for them. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of smaller brands in between. And that's why the software is very helpful, the info products, because you could actually take our IP and our systems and use it yourself.
Yeah.
So
No, I think it's awesome. I love the scientific approach you have to all this. It's like, I imagine your office being like a laboratory with like mad scientists in there, just like trying different formulas. Like,
yeah.
this is awesome. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, thanks so much for sharing on that. That's really, really cool. And I think people can take some value out of that to like really systematize that process, the content creation process that they have, or even implement yours. So, if they did want to reach out to you or find out more about what you got going on, what's a good place to find you?
Yeah, so best place to find me is Instagram. So VISCAP Tyler, VizCap Tyler, or on Twitter. Those are probably the two platforms that I check the most, probably Instagram number one. So yeah, reach out to me there. Happy to, I'm an open book. Ask any question, anything that there is when it comes to what I'm good at and stuff. Happy to have a conversation. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today, guys. This is a very, very important aspect of growing a business. It's that advertising process. And sometimes creativity can seem ambiguous or maybe we don't quite understand it. But Tyler here has been able to really systematize it and make it into almost a scientific equation on how he can run these ads and bring in more revenue for the business. So, guys, this is Better Business with Austin Zelan. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you all on the next episode.